Okay, so today we're going to be looking at putting the new shutter on the bathroom fan. So this is the shutter. Hopefully you can see that. Yep, let me turn the screen around here. Okay, so that's the shutter. That's what it looks like. And in the past, the fan has mounted directly onto here. And that's been okay because the blades could come through on the other side. It doesn't really matter. Now that's not the case anymore, so it has to be mounted probably about like here. So there's maybe an inch or so of spacing between, maybe a little, like more like an inch and a half even, of spacing between the mounting points and the board. So since the fan is set so far away from it, I have to make another shroud for the fan to sit in. And it's just getting really complicated. So what I'm going to do is I have this piece of plywood here, and this is what we're going to use. It's kind of dirty, but this is what we're going to use. I got to cut this little thing off here, but we'll use this piece. And what's going to happen is the fan, I'll cut a hole in this, and the fan will mount to this piece. And then this piece will mount on here, of course over the hole. And there's going to be 4 pieces of wood that go on the side to close it off, so there's no airflow going through there, or going through the sides. And so kind of like we're creating half of a box to put the fan in. Now, I don't have the proper tools to do this, so I'm going to show you how we're going to cut the hole in here without the right kind of tools. And so yeah, let's get started. Okay, so I've put the outline on my wood here, and I've made this kind of a reserved estimate, so I may have to take a little bit more off of it later on. But that's okay because I'd rather it end up being a little bit too small and have to shave off the sides versus if it's just too big, because you can't do anything at that point. Okay, so this is what I'm primarily going to use. This is a doorknob hole creator. And I'm going to take maybe 5 of these out of here, and then I'm going to use the rest with this smaller saw probably. Okay, so we got all 4 pieces cut, and the way this is going to work is the board will go on the outside like this, and then the fan, of course, will mount from the other side in there as if it were like under the table, and then this part will go up against the that thing, the window part. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this together now. This will be kind of interesting because this has a tendency to split, so we're going to have to pre-drill holes and everything to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, so I've got the holes in here, but what I want to do is I want to make sure these holes are big enough so that these screws can go in here and just spin, and it's not quite there. So I'm going to, well, actually it is kind of there. I suppose that may be sufficient. Yeah, I guess I'll just leave that be. Now I'm noticing that these screws are actually a bit too small, so we grab some different ones here. These should work well. Yeah, that should be good enough. And so now what I have to do is go around and put smaller holes, because we need the screws to thread still. Put smaller screws, holes in there, in this piece. Probably going to use like maybe this bit, or quite possibly the one that's even smaller. I think this one should be good. So we'll use, well, what happens if all the bits are all over the table for some reason? I'm not quite sure why. This other one is going to be probably too small. It may still split. Actually, you know what? I have a test piece here. Let's do a test. Use your little test tool in here real quick. Okay, that didn't actually do anything. That's cool. Now let's see if this will go in without splitting. No, that's too small. Let's see, it's on the verge of splitting right there, so we're going to have to use the size splitter. So let me try with this bit here. Actually, we got 2 of these here. Which ones? They're about the same size. Go with this one. Perfect, so that's a good size. That can go in there, it's sturdy, but it's not gonna, there's no risk of it splitting. So we're gonna use that size. Okay, so here's the box, and the Fion is, well, it's hard to show it with the way there's so much junk on the table. More or less it's going to look like that, and the Fion will, if there's enough slack on the cord here, if not, I'll have to fix that. This should be enough. It'll sit in here like this, and it's actually, it just barely fits. His hole is a pretty good cut, so yeah, it seems to be not hitting anyways. So okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to attach the board, I mean the box onto the board. At this point we are ready to attach the Fion, which is fine. I've already fill. Okay, so we're going to attach the Fion, and I gotta see how we're going to do the wiring here. I suppose we could do it just like that, and that would probably be okay. And get this to be perfectly centered in here so it doesn't hit anything. Very close in some places, but that's okay. That's better for the airflow anyways. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drill through here. Now I believe that this box should be sturdy enough to hold it. I'm pretty confident that it is. So I'm just going to put some holes in here and precision is not an issue with these holes because there's a lot of room for adjustment once it's with the way I mount it. Okay, so I'm going to use these screws, and I wish I had 4 of these bigger washers, but I just don't. Okay, so now I can adjust this a little bit if need be to make sure it doesn't hit anything. So I gotta move it over this way a little bit. It's hitting there. Okay, I think that should be good. Again, it's very close in some places, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Actually, that's what you'd want for in terms of aerodynamics. So I'm going to tighten down these washers now. Uh-oh. Okay, it's going too far over. Okay, so now I'm going to power it up real quick just to make sure that it's not going to hit anything, because the shaft has a fair bit of play in it, front to back, which allows the blades to move, which is not super ideal, but that's what it is. Okay, oh actually, this is another thing I got to do. I got to replace these crimps with solder and shrink tube. That's what I want to do in the future, because this is not ideal and it doesn't always work. Get dust anywhere, but it seems like it should be okay. Alright, so now we're going to attach. Okay, good. Now we're going to attach the shutter. And this will not be nearly as challenging as it was with the previous design, because I use whatever screws I want and it's not really a problem. So just for consistency, I'm going to continue along with these screws. I have 4 left, actually. I do. Perfect. And you get to enjoy that interesting scraping sound while I do this. Oh, and what I forgot to mention is I actually modified this shutter. This is like a dryer duct shutter, and there was a flange on the inside, a circular piece. I just cut it off because I have no use for it. Although actually, with the way I built this, I probably could have left it. Not terribly significant, I don't think, either way. Alright, so there it is. Looks like that's all together now. Let me turn this thing on. See how it works. This fan, I guess, is just not quite as powerful as I initially thought. There's a lot of kickback on this side as far as airflow goes. I mean, it's not bad, but there's definitely a little bit of throwback. Well, that's unfortunate. I thought it was going to work a little better than that. I mean, it's working, and it's the air is definitely coming out. It's just not quite as good as I would have thought it would be. I mean, it's definitely enough airflow. You know, I open this, I don't really feel any more, so it's doing what it needs to do, but. Maybe the shutter is just, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's that heavy. You know, I think half the problem is this fan isn't really meant for this type of application. So that's why it's probably not working too well. But it's working well enough, and you can see from this side that the shutter is opening. And maybe you can't really see it through the blades, I guess. But let's see, maybe over here. Yeah, you can see the shutter is opening, and it's, you know, it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's just, I don't know if it's quite as efficient as it was, you know, before. So maybe at some point it will be time for a fan upgrade. I don't know, we'll see. It's good enough for now. It's well built, it's not going to break, and it'll keep the bathroom refreshed. So thank you for watching. Comment, subscribe, and out.